Welcome to Biblical Theology Today. My name is Judd. Today's chapter in the Greek New Testament is Matthew 1. What we're going to do is read through this chapter. I'm using Logos Bible software here, and we will use their read aloud function. I'll follow along with the cursor. Once that finishes, we'll make some biblical theological observations in the text, and then the final section, for those who are interested, will go verse by verse and translate this together. So let's dive in. Here we go. Matthew 1:1 in Greek.
Biblas Geneseos Jesu Christu, huiu David, huiu Abraham. Abraham genisen ton Isaac. Isaac de genisen ton Jakob. Jakob de genisen ton Judan, kai tu saldo fusautu. Judas de genisen ton Fares, kai ton Zara ektes Tamar. Fares de genisen ton Esrom. Esrom de genisen ton Aram. Aram de genisen ton Aminadab. Aminadab de genisen ton Naason. Naason de genisen ton Salmon. Salmon de genisen ton Boaz ektes Rahab. Boaz de genisen ton Jobed ektes Ruth. Jobed de genisen ton Yesai. Yesai de genisen ton David ton Basileia. David de genisen ton Salomona ektes tu Oriu. Salomon de genisen ton Rabaam. Rabaam de genisen ton Abia. Abia de genisen ton Asaph. Asaph de genisen ton Josaphat. Josaphat de genisen ton Joram. Joram de genisen ton Azion. Azias de genisen ton Joatham. Joatham de genisen ton Ahaz. Ahaz de genisen ton Hezekian. Hezekias de genisen ton Manasseh. Manasses de genisen ton Amos. Amos de genisen ton Josian. Josias de genisen ton Jekanian. Kai tu sadofusautu, epites metoikesias Babylonas. Metade tein metoikesian Babylonas. Jekanias genisen ton Salathiel. Salathiel de genisen ton Zorobabel. Zorobabel de genisen ton Abiud. Abiud de genisen ton Eliakim. Eliakim de genisen ton Azor. Azor de genisen ton Sadok. Sadok de genisen ton Achim. Achim de genisen ton Eliud. Eliud de genisen ton Eleazar. Eleazar de genisen ton Matan. Matan de genisen ton Jakob. Jakob de genisen ton Josef ton andra Marias. Exes genete Jesus ha legamonos Christos. Pasaiun hai geneai apa Abraham. Heos David geneai decatesares. Kai apa David heos tes metoikesias Babylonas geneai decatesares. Kai apa tes metoikesias Babylonas heos tu Christu geneai decatesares. Tu de Jesu Christu he genesis hutos ein. Menes tu theses tes metrasa tu Marias tu Joseph. Prin eis un elthenautus, hierethe in gastria husa, ec pneumatas hagiu, Joseph de ha nerates, dikaiason, kai me thelon autein degmatisai, ebulethe lathra apelusai autein, tauta de autu inthu methentas edu angelas curiu, cad honor afane autolegon. Joseph, huias David, me fabethes para laben Marian ten gunaikasu. Tagar in aute genethen ec pneumatas estin hagiu. Texatai de huian, kai kaleses ta anima autu Jesun. Autasgar sose ton laon autu apaton hamation auton. Tuta de Holland gegeden, hine plerothe ta rethin hupach kiriu diatu prophetu legantos. Idu he parthenas in gastriaxe kai texatai huion, kai kalesus in tarma tu Emmanuel, haestin methermenuamenon, methemon hatheos. Eger thes de Iosef apatu hypnu, epoiesin hos prosetaxen auto haangelas kiriu, kai parelabin ten gunaike autu, kai ukeginoskin autein, heos hu hetekin huion, kai akalasin ta anima autu Yesun.
So that's through chapter 1. You probably picked up that there's a lot of repetition in this chapter, a great vocab building tool. Wanted to make a couple of comments in terms of biblical theology. The first, let me see if I can bring this down. The first, this phrase, Biblos Genesos, is probably going back to the Septuagint, Biblos Genesos, of the heavens and the earth. And then if I can remember this rightly, this is the book of the Genesos of Anthropon. Turns out this phrase, book of the Genesos, let me just get this where I can see it again, is actually a theme in the Old Testament, and it occurs 13 times. These are the generations of the heavens and earth, Adam, Noah, Shem. When you look at it in Hebrew, very similar, and I just threw in Delitzsch's Hebrew translation of the New Testament, and you can see, I think he may have helped us here. This is the book of the Toledoth. I think he's doing that to mimic this. But it's clear Biblos Genesos is probably connected with these statements somehow. It's interesting, in Hebrew it's the Toledoth of Adam, and in the Septuagint the Toledoth of Anthropon, so they're reading Adam as a corporate there. So right off the bat, we kind of realize that this is some kind of biblical, theological thing going on here. When we come to Matthew's genealogy, this is just my document. What he's doing is apparently he's grouping this into 3 sections of 14. It may be that the one here is, we should think of the Babylonian captivity. I'm not sure if the fact that Jehoiachin was raised out of the bondage he was there. I'm a little uncertain how he's counting it there, but you have these. Of course, somebody who's going to be a stickler for details says, before that, they do mention a number of women, and I think the point there is that the Bible is being very clear that God isn't saving people who are inherently good. He's saving people and making them good. These stories all show some kind of difficulty that's being overcome by God's grace. For those who are kind of into details, say, well, why does he skip 6 people to get his 14? Well, it's interesting. I don't know if I have it in here, but John Chrysostom I was wondering this myself one time, and I was reading John Chrysostom, and in his sermon on this, he said, the reason the names are omitted is so obvious that if I tell you why, it will make you lazy. So he said, I'm not going to tell you why they're omitted. You should know. I took that as being chided a little bit. I'm uncertain. Maybe it has to do with Ahab's curse. Jehoram married Ahab's daughter or something like this, and so it may have something to do with that. These three, it seems, are not counted as legitimate rulers because they weren't installed by God. And then we've already talked about counting the Babylonian captivity there. When on my Patreon account for those who support the channel at a certain level, you'll have access to these documents. All of this genealogical data, compare Matthew and Luke. Some interesting things going on there. It appears that Matthew is in the details, and of course, this is just a collection of what other people have said, as well as some bibliographic research to do that. So it's interesting. Of course, really interesting part here, and let me see if I can do this. Do biblical word study in Logos. Logos is such a great tool. So I'll do Bible word study. What's interesting about this is this word,
Jesus,
is so rich in terms of biblical theology because it's the Hebrew word Yeshua. In fact, it's translated that, Yehoshua. You can see all these times in the Septuagint. So the word Jesus and the word Joshua aren't similar. They're actually the exact same word. And so, you've got this new Joshua coming to save the people not from the Canaanites, but to save his people from their sins. The main Old Testament passage, Isaiah 7:14, I think it is, the Alma will conceive and bear a son. Interesting word related to the word hidden, and it's not a Alma will conceive, but the Alma. It's part of that, ask for a sign, make it as high as heaven, make it as deep as Sheol. And that promise is being given in the context where God, tells Isaiah, take your son with you, stand at a particular place, that 30 years later, Hezekiah is going to hear the Lord cursed, and he's facing invasion. This is all going on, and God had said to Isaiah, preach in a way so that they won't understand it, and then he says, the Alma will conceive. And so an interesting passage. Maybe we'll dive into that. But in our time left, we want to go through and translate. I suggest, if you're wanting to, keep your Greek up, you want to set some kind of goal. Start off with a verse a day. Try to work to 2 verses. Eventually get to where you can do a page a day. Then 5 pages. Eventually you'll get to where you can do 10 pages a day in 20 minutes. And If you ever get to that, well, you're going to be able to read through the Greek New Testament once every, what is that, like 2 months. So that's the goal. Let's go through the book of the Genesis of Jesus Christ, son of David, son of Abraham. It's interesting. I don't know if you picked this up or not. Did you pick up the two Toledoths that are missing are David's and Abraham? Neither one have a Toledoth in the Old Testament, even though they're central figures. So it's interesting that this 14th Toledoth is actually picking that up. We have here Abraham begot Isaac, Isaac begot Jacob, Jacob begot Judah and his brothers. And notice that this word Judas, if we just take time to do the Bible word study again, I will figure out how to do these transitions a little bit better. Realize that the word Judas and the word Judah are the same word in Greek, which is really interesting that Judah sold his righteous brother Joseph for 20 pieces of silver, and Judah in the New Testament is going to sell Jesus for 30. You wonder if there's some biblical theology there. So Jacob begot Judah or Judas and his brothers. Judah begot Pharez and Zerah from Tamar. Pharez begot Esrom. Esrom begot Aram. Aram begot Amminadab. Amminadab begot Nahshon. Nahshon begot Salmon. Salmon begot Boaz from Rahab, which is really interesting. That fact isn't, at least as I've seen it, isn't in the Old Testament, but he's telling us that Boaz's mother was actually Rahab, which is interesting because Boaz is like one of the two primary characters who shows sexual purity in the Old Testament, and his mom was Rahab. It shows the power of God canceling sin, redeeming people. Rahab's son is the one who shows great sexual purity in the Old Testament. Obed begot Jesse. Jesse begot David the king. Did I say that the number, sometime when we're doing this, we'll dive into the fact that Greeks and Hebrew people practice gematria, where the words are related to numbers. The gematria of David, Dalet, Vav, Dalet, is 14. And so you wonder if like these sections are related, like a David from Abraham to David, a David from David to Babylon, and a David from Babylon to Jesus. I don't know, but it could be that's connected. David begot Solomon from the wife of Uriah, from the woman of Uriah. Solomon begot Rehoboam. Rehoboam begot Abiah. Abiah begot Asaph. Asaph begot Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat begot Joram. Joram begot Ozias. Ozias begot Joatham. Joatham begot Ahaz. Ahaz begot Hezekiah. Hezekiah begot Manasseh. Manasseh begot Amos. Amos begot Eosiah. Eosiah begot Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the deportation to Babylon. After the deportation of Babylon, Jeconiah begot Shealtiel. Shealtiel begot Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel begot Abiud. Abiud begot Eliakim. Eliakim begot Aitzor. Aitzor begot Sadok. Sadok begot Joachim, Joachim begot Eliud, Eliud begot Eleazar, Eleazar begot Mathan, Mathan begot Jacob, sorry, Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, from whom Jesus was born, Jesus the one called the Christ. You can see here I've got Zerwick's grammatical analysis links at A, so it scrolls together. If you're working to keep up your Greek, the first tool you want to buy is Zerwick's grammatical analysis. Many years ago at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, Walter Liefeld suggests to our class that we get this, and I bought it. It wasn't a required textbook, just recommended, and I quickly fell in love with Zerwick's grammatical analysis. And Logos is so great because they have the electronic version now, and you can link them together. Anything difficult, Zerwick will explain for us. And so here, this legomenos, he's going to say, is past participle of lego, the one having or being called Christ. All the generations from Abraham until David are 14 generations. From David until the Babylonian deportation, 14, and from the deportation of Babylon until the Christ, 14. Now, it is interesting that he's omitting names, but remember, Matthew counted things for a living, and he kept lists of names, and so there may be a reason why he's counting 14 legitimate rulers. See what you think. Dive in, be a Berean. Here we have of Jesus Christ, the Genesios, and it's probably picking up that Toledo was like this, or the process of being born, or something like that. Cis words in Greek usually are process words. Was thus when his mother Mary was engaged to Joseph. And look at Zerwick here. He tells us this is an aorist passive participle from this word court and win, so betroth. I'm reading it as a genitive absolute. Yeah, and Zerwick says it's a genitive absolute here. Before then, so that's your then. Before then, they to come together. So that's indirect discourse. She was found having ingastry, technical term for pregnant, from Holy Spirit. Joseph, her man, once you enter betrothal, it's more than betrothal to us. Joseph, her man, her husband, being a just man and not wanting to make her a public example. We get the word like paradigm from this. Not wanting to make her public example was counseling. I always get this word mixed up. So here's our lexical, desiring, wanting. Of course, this is BDAG, kind of the standard one. Logos is great because you can just click on it and it will pull up. It is a deponent verb, boulamai. So even though this is passive in form, since it's deponent, you'll translate it as wanted secretly to divorce her. And while he was pondering these things, and notice we've got genitive pronoun, genitive participle. This is going to be a genitive absolute. I have my verse numbers turned off. Oh, yeah, here we go. Genitive Absolute. So Zerwick's going to help us there. Yeah, while he was pondering these things, and I always put a comma when I translate after genitive absolute because that lets me know that I need to start over. While he, having pondered these things, comma, while he pondered, or after he pondered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord in a dream appeared to him, saying, Joseph, son of David, you should not fear. Let's see, is this, I'm trying to think, is this a subjunctive? Zerwick will help us. He parses all the difficult things for us. Angel of the Lord appeared. Yeah, it's aorist passive subjunctive. You should not fear to take Mary, your wife, for the thing having been begotten in her. So this is aorist passive participle of genao. The thing having been begotten in her is from Holy Spirit. A lot of times when you have prepositions in Greek, they don't have the word the. So usually it is the Holy Spirit, but I've never put the list together to know if ek usually takes a definite article or not. She will bear a son, and you will call him Jesus. So she will bear, you will call. So this is the official adoption of Jesus. For he will save his people from their sins. So not saving the people from the Canaanites like Joshua in the Old Testament, saving his people from their sins. It's not out there, it's in here. This whole thing has come about, so this is a perfect from Genomai, perfect of Genomai, in order that the thing having been said, so this is your aorist passive neuter participle, might be fulfilled, the thing having been said by the Lord. This is the translation surrogate of YHWH. The thing having been said by the Lord through the prophet saying, then we have the quotation of Isaiah 7:14, I think it is, behold, the virgin in gastry will have, and she will bear a son. So that's your future, I think it's deponent of ticto. Here, I'll hover over it and it'll pull it up, I think. Future of ticto, it's middle, will bear a son, and they will call his name Emmanuel, which is being translated. So see, we get the word hermeneutics there after interpretation, which is being interpreted with us. Hotheos is with us. But Joseph, having been raised up, I guess it's just having gotten up from sleep, did as the angel commanded him, the angel of the Lord. And there is a rule called the Canon of Apollonius, where if you have two words in regimen, if one has the definite article, both should have the definite article. But when kurios is used as a translation surrogate of YHWH, often they'll omit that second definite article, and that's what's going on here. The angel of kurios, that's letting you know it's YHWH. As the angel of the Lord commanded, And he took his wife, and he was not knowing her. So this is the imperfect of gnosko, until when she bore a son, and he called his name Jesus. So then this is where chapter 2 starts, and we'll stop there. I like reading without the verse and chapter numbers. Sometimes it helps me kind of get a better idea of this as one story. You can turn that on and off here in Logos if you do Bible text only, and then if you click it, it will take the verse numbers out. So that's what I have for you today. I encourage you as you continue to develop your Greek and as you experience the delights of biblical theology. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.